and then the recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So there'll be a lot of people who have not had the opportunity to join us today will have the opportunity to watch and listen into Professor Seifalian on YouTube channel. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Professor Seifalian, who will give his lecture.
It was great, and thank you, and I'm delighted to be invited to give a talk to these young people. And my talk is really going to be toward the medical, but it would interest all sorts of people in a scientific background, engineering background, or just a layman, solicitor, lawyer, whoever, financial people. Because myself, my background was physics or nuclear physics, and then I did medicine, and then I become academic rather than clinical. I didn't continue medicine, and I did PhD and master degree. So very multidisciplinary background to come to do this work. So today I'm going to talk about virtually how to repair or maybe replace a damaged organ, such as, I don't know, lung, heart, kidney, face, organ, and how the work goes forward, not just from my point of view, from other point of view. There's some picture here on my first slide, and it's, we transplant trachea, we make trachea for the patient for first trachea. We made ear, nose, and tear duct, so many things, and some of them is gone already commercialized, and some of them at very early stage, or some of them just 1 or 2 clinical trial and stopped, So if you look at in terms of technology, and maybe some of you, I'm sure some of you not even born to be, and look, you've seen all this early telephone. If you go back very, just a standard telephone, and then first mobile phone came out in 1973, about in the middle one. And I remember we used to have, I was part of the liver transplant team, and we used to have a first mobile phone. It was so big, and there's a big box was coming with it. You had to carry it around. And as a matter of fact, was on the newspaper, because it's a so big telephone, carrying this thing for liver transplanting. Then today's we have a mobile phone, which on the right-hand side in the iPhone or whatever, Simpson, whatever you have. And it's not just a mobile phone, it's a phone, is you could find your address, directory, everything you want, computer, everything's in it. Virtually you could take a mobile phone and go to live in somewhere place in the world. You could order anything you like with everything. So there's a huge jump in technology in our daily life, which is virtually revolutionized our daily life and make them much maybe easier, faster, quicker and stuff. But when we come to medicine for treatment, when I get ill, or somebody I know get ill, maybe get cancer or any other disease, the treatment, unfortunately, hasn't changed very much. I mean, this patient, which I know here, it had on his, in his mouth, you could see black spot there. That is malignant melanoma. It's quite dangerous cancer. So when he had this cancer about 4 years ago, this patient, so for treatment, they take some biopsy and they say, yes, it's cancer. For treatment for this patient, it was surgery and do chemotherapy. So he didn't want to do chemotherapy. They just did the surgery. That means they removed really partial all his upper maximal bone. They removed it, and they're trying to reconstruct bone, and they haven't done it. And this guy's alive, is okay, but they removed a really big part of his face. And there's nothing other they could do. He didn't want chemotherapy, so still is surviving and doing very well. What I'm saying, this was exactly what they were doing about 60, 70 years ago. And still we're doing the same thing. when people have cancer, their first option is now is a surgery, and after that, either radiotherapy or chemotherapy. That's the standard thing. There are minor things here and there, different product, but none of them is routine or commercialized. And this is applied for many things. For example, just simply, if somebody lose their nose, just you lose their nose from the maybe some injury, some accident or something, then nothing can be replaced that, and quite difficult. Or ear or trachea. If somebody lose their trachea, like damage, and trachea get damaged from children drink chemical, it get damaged the trachea, or from injury, there's nothing can replace it. That's called unmet clinical need. At the same time, if you have a liver, kidney, heart disease, only you could do liver heart transplant, but not any device could replace it. So we improve a lot in terms of technology, say mobile phone, many other things, and we're trying to develop a driverless, like a car, but in medicine, it's very poor, the technology. Some technology has been done in medicine. For example, a stent, if your blood vessel get blocked, you put it like a wire inside that called stent, and that has gone well, and that because they are based on engineering. Those are based on biology and chemistry. Body is very complex from one patient with other patient. So even you may work with one patient and you think it's good, but it may not apply for other. So those are the problem medicine. For example, for those patients, you could see it's nothing they can do. There's no solution currently for it. Or, cleft lip, children born with cleft lip, and it's very difficult. I mean, surgeon trying to, put suture them together, they're trying to play around with it, but still they're not proper solution. We run a charity called Macrotia. Macrotia, when children born and they got deformed ear, and 1 in 6,000 children they born, they got this deformed ear, and you can't do anything. So only option is for it. Usually, people get they remove part of the ribs. They open your stomach, surgeon remove part of your ribs, and they're trying to get the cartilage from ribs. They're trying to make ear. And it's not easy, removing ribs, and itself make infection, all this thing, and try to make ear the size you want, it's not easy. For example, coronary artery, this is on your left-hand side, is a heart, and you could see they've done a bypass from aorta to coronary artery down there. And usually if somebody got coronary arteries got blocked, and blockage more than 70%, they need to do bypass. And you tend to look around the vein or artery inside the body to replace it. And you remove it maybe from the leg to put in the artery. Okay, it works, not very well. There's some issue with it, but generally it's work. But if patient, they don't have a suitable vein or artery, or maybe used before and they're not good enough, there's nothing you can do for this patient. You think that you would be a plastic tube or something, you could replace this artery, but unfortunately it's not there. I'm saying all those things because especially young people there, and maybe they want to make one, they maybe to get there. And they feel I'm talking, you could have a background engineering, chemist, biology, physics, doctor, clinical person, pharmacology, anybody can move in and help on making such a device. And to make this kind of stuff is not easy. I mean, even look at the vaccine. The world, contributed multi-billion dollars to have a vaccine for COVID. Still, we don't have it. And I'm sure we would not have a next couple of years. They keep talking, because biology is very complex and it's not as easy. You can't just go to make boom vaccine. You know, there are vaccines, few vaccine. Everybody say we have developed a vaccine. You know, Oxford, Russia, everywhere, US, but we're not sure it works or not. As a matter of fact, it's not working 100%. So they're trying to find out. So sometimes not even money you have doesn't help because the science is not there. So people working on it. And if you really like money and you want to help, if, for example, you make a tube, say plastic tube, that plastic tube could replace an artery. And the artery is like a tube, you know, the blood goes through. And sometimes this blood, middle of the artery get blocked, you know, from eating fatty food, this, drinking, smoking, whatever, it get blocked. So if you want to just cut that and replace with the plastic tube so blood doesn't stop, you know, go through it, there's not one. And if you develop one, you make one, market, I mean, this is the old data, market is about $10 billion per year. With one plastic tubing, you're looking at making billions of dollars per year. Or if you make a heart valve, you know, you could make, you know, so many $1 billion per year. When nanotechnology came out, about, you know, nanotechnology been a long time, but say really pushed to medicine about 15 years ago, everybody said, well, that's a nanotechnology is a solution. So people thought, you know, here you got the heart here and blood vessel here. People thought, okay, you could make a nano. Nano is very small, like a really small. It's 10 to minus 9 meter. So you have a millimeter, 1,000 micrometer is 1 millimeter, 1,000 nanometer is 1 micrometer. So it's quite small from you looking at your ruler. When you look at the 1 millimeter, 1 million of time on those are 1 nanometer. So here, there's some diagram here. We thought, you know, people thought, you know, we could make a nano robot, and this nano robot, you could just inject into the blood vessel. So here, this is the blood vessel. It will go, and on another picture, you could put a miniature laser light here. If you see something damaged, you got like a fire, you could maybe release some drugs for, you know, for when you see cancer, or there's, you know, some other diseases, cure it, blockage, you know, cut it off with laser. And I mean, there are such a robot, but they're much bigger, and it may work in the industrial place, in factory, but not in human body, in miniature way, yet in body. But I am sure, maybe not soon, but next 20 years, there would be such a robot and be traveling around the body and working. Nano, you know, it's just the size of the nano. You got water, glucose, virus, you know, there's so much, you know, 10 to this. And when you go to nano, like a carbon nanotube is about 1-2 nanometer. Quantum dot is fluorescent nanoparticle, gold, you could have a few nanometer. So there's really a small we're looking at. So problem from lab to research. I work in university, you know, University College London Medical School, Royal Free Hospital, and I know a lot of labs throughout the world, you know, from US to China, Japan, all this thing I worked throughout. And people make amazing stuff, really exciting stuff, you know, it cure cancer, it cure diabetic, do that, but not in human. Usually they try it in the lab, in the cell work, or they try it in the mouse or rats. And somehow it does work some extent in the mouse, rats. And so you get a newspaper, they write about it, and all these people get excited, you know, and something happened, they call you, say, oh, can you make a kidney, or can you, my granddad, you know, is on dialysis, he need a kidney. But when all your staff work in the lab in terms of research in university lab, and it works in the mice and rat, but very difficult to translate it to human. And not many of them works. So imagine 1,000 research they do in university, one may be useful, and another 1,000 of those, one may go to clinical. Another word, 1 million research topic, one may go to clinical. And after that, out of 100 of those to patient gone to clinical, maybe one, if it's very good, become a product. So it's not very easy. That is due to regulation, cost, knowledge, scaling up, human biology, chemistry, very complex. You may have done something works on one human, but never work again. So those are the problems. But I don't want to disappoint you. We may overcome all those problems gradually in near future. People are working, the knowledge becoming more and more, and government spending more money, you know, and also now most grants been given to people which they make a product that way. So try to push it, not just doing the research, push it to human. Okay, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about nanotech, about work I've done on nanomaterial and stem cell. So again, nano is very small. You look at the earth, you look at the football, 20 centimeters, then become nano, 1 nanometer. So example of nanotechnology. So people say, what is nanotechnology? They want to know what is it. So what can we do in treatment of patients? So first, say quantum dot. Quantum dot, those color you see, they are quantum dot. It's a fluorescence dye. For fluorescence dye, you know, based on nanotechnology. And this quantum dot is made in the lab with one of my postdoctoral, and he used cadmium telluride, and he made quantum dot. So what quantum dot, when you see this quantum dot, this is the chicken leg here. So when you inject to it chicken leg, and then you have to activate it by UV light, then you could see those dots where it is. And so you could see so clearly. In this mouse here, we put cancer from the patient, we put into mouse, and cancer grows. Then with the quantum dot, the red one, we attach antibody. So antibodies kind of things go to the cancer, stick to the cancer. So we attach cancer antibody. So we attach it to that, and then to inject it into mouse through the vein from the tail. And then we open it, the stomach, and you could see all the dye gone to the cancer. So what the advantage is? You know, people may have breast, female, get breast lump in their breast, and they go to GP, they say, oh God, we got lump, and GP have to send it to surgeon and to hospital. So the surgeon, it remove piece of the lump, it's called node, sentinel node, remove that node and send it to pathology. And pathology decide, then they do pathology, say yes, it's cancer or not. And to find one of those sentinel nodes, because the cancer goes there, it's not very easy. You have to, they inject radiation, they inject those blue dye to try to where it is, then to cut it and remove it. Imagine if it works, you have a dye, you know, and it has this antibody, you could just inject it. I mean, you could go to GP inject it, or you could at home, there's somebody nurse come to inject to you. And if I have a cancer, this light comes, you know, and I could see from outside, you know, there's light, you know, red light, you know, then that's the advantage. Then I know, yes, there's a cancer, is there. or there's not. Easily, you could go to a GP, they just inject it and you will see it. So there's a huge advantage, to see if anywhere you got cancer or not. So those pictures taken is just from my mobile phone, So that's the big advantage if you could see that kind of thing. Only thing I have to say, the penetration, this near infrared light, the penetration is roughly about 2 centimeters. So if up to 2 centimeters on the breast and stuff, you could see it. But if somebody deeper, if you're looking at the stomach cancer, then you have to put the optical light, like a camera through the stomach or something, But overall, there's a big advantage to see that. Or sometimes when they do surgery, when you remove cancer, like breast cancer, surgeon open it and there's a breast cancer, you could see it usually, you remove it. And then there's normal skin, tissue, and cancer. It's a margin. It's very difficult because surgeons, they don't want to remove normal tissue. At the same time, they want to remove it all. And the margin is not easy. So if you can inject this dye, which is quantum dotted code, and all the cancer cell light up, you could remove individual one. Even the small one, which you wouldn't see it before. So there's a big advantage. But taking this to clinical, it costs a lot of money and effort and stuff. So my research stopped at that because I moved to a company, set up a company to commercialize, and that wasn't easy. So that was unfortunately still there. But people working on it, other people, and hopefully maybe one day move to clinic. Another thing, I say, patient, within carbon nanotube is like a black dust or graphene, like a black, like a black powder, like coil, black powder. Actually, that if you inject that to the cancer cell and shine light to it, like a light you have it for from giving a talk or something. If it's a near infrared light or laser light, if you shine to it, it absorbs the light and heat up. So another thing people work on it, they try to inject carbon nanotube or gold nanoparticle or something, then shine light, laser light to it, and that's the way to kill cancer. And I think that actually, it may move to clinic within 5 years, including a magnetic nanoparticle. Those are one of the cancer killers which will move to clinic soon. It just show you, that was chicken leg. Here, when I injected the quantum dot, there are different color or different wavelengths. You could see all that it is. We had a plant there, and I just poured the quantum dot on the soil. And because they're so small, they travel really fast to the plant leaves and flowers and light up. So they're so small, they're like 8 nanometer. And as soon as you pour it into the water, it goes into the plant. Same problem when you inject it, it's just, you could see the dot. We also, this is just an example of nanotechnology, nanoparticle I was giving you, but there are lots of them around. Lots of people work on different things, and some hopefully going towards a clinical study, but some, still at basic research. Other thing I was trying to make ear. So as I said, 1 in 6,000 children when they're born, they don't have an ear called microtia, and you want to make ear for them to replace it. Usually they replace their ear about when they're teenager, or about 9, 10, something like that. So to make ear, I was trying to make really a synthetic scaffold like plastic, and then you put the stem cells on it, and then you make that organ. You grow the stem cell plastic and become like an ear. You put it on the ear, So to do that, if something you put inside under your skin, it get infection, and and the skin trying to, the body trying to reject it. So you have to have a biocompatible, non-toxic material. So to do that, I thought maybe I should work on insect, because their body is really interesting. I mean, we're not getting enough information. There's so much information just studying insect, like a butterfly, beetle, and many other insects. They produce things which human being we cannot. And for example, butterfly never get infection. They are in everywhere. Or beetle in the very dirty places, but the surface based on nanotopography. And that's why they can survive. I was trying to make a super hydrophobic material. So like a bacterial, nothing could get attached to it. So I was studying those. And there's a professor at the Geography Museum, National Geography Museum, called Professor Parker. He gave me those butterfly wings, and I was studying butterfly wing. And also I was trying to grow stem cell on it to see what pattern is better. So our team, they were trying to do that, what pattern is better. And we tried to fabricate those patterns synthetically on the polymer. For example, here we collaborate with Professor Delpy in Glasgow. So he made pattern on this material on left-hand side, got this pattern, and on right-hand side, no pattern. You could see much more stem cell growth on left-hand side compared right-hand side. So if you make like a different pattern, cell grows much better onto it. Also, I started working on graphene. Graphene is a very interesting material. It's extremely strong, it's the thinnest material in the market, and also lightest material, electric, conductive, graphene. I mean, if any expertise you have, please look at the graphene and maybe benefit you. In UK, 2 professors in Manchester University won the Nobel Prize, and they discovered the structure of graphene. Virtually, they got a Scotch tape, that's what they said, piece of graphite from pencil, just rub it, and they put the Scotch tape on the graphite, which they got the pencil, and they got one structure of graphene. You look at one atomic structure of graphene. I'm sure they did much more work down and very complex, but that they made it simple. Graphene, that's what the typical picture they show. If you have one layer of graphene, you put elephant on it, it would not break. Of course, this pencil may break, but graphene not break. As it's so strong, it uses a lot. Graphene is 200 times stronger than steel. So they're using aerospace, they're using automobile industry. You can develop bulletproof jacket in industry, in medical industry, because conductive, you could use, for example, cardiac patch, so many other things. We developed graphene. One of my postdoctorals, she worked for Google now, and she makes some graphene, and graphene material, nanocomposite. So graphene itself is quite hard, strong, but if you want to application, you have to make a softer material, so you incorporate it with other material. Graphene we make, if it's 2 millimeter graphene, if you want to break it, 2 millimeter graphene, you want to break it, you need about 100 kilo, hanging on it to break, so it's so strong. And then you have to test it, you put it, you grow cells on it, that means cells, they don't die. And so you got the material, you could make ear, you could do 3D print, so that's what we do. This is my postdoctoral called Steve. So we put in the rat, the mice, graphene ear. we made the nose for this gentleman based on synthetic material and the stem cell. So really, when you make that, you make this material, and you make the 3D shape. You could fabricate it by hand, or you could do 3D printing, the shape of ear, nose, trachea, and you get a stem cell from patient. And to get the way to get a stem cell, you could just virtually get some fat, about 200 ml fat, and you extract the stem cell from the fat in the operating theater. And then you pour it onto the scaffold, and then currently nobody can make skin. So you have to put under the skin, under the arm or somewhere else, the skin get covered, and then you cut it, and the plastic surgeon move it to the nose or ear or so on. One of my interests is to make a blood vessel for artery, heart. So usually if your blood vessels are in the hearing patient, the leg, if you get blockage, if blockage is less than 70%, they put this wire stent into it. If it's more than 70%, then they do bypass. As I said before, to do bypass, they use piece of artery vein from somewhere else, remove it to do here. For some patients, they don't have a suitable one. So I was trying to make a little tube, plastic tube, and to replace artery. So the plastic tube I made is from material we make, nanocomposite material, and also we put peptides on it. In the blood, there is a stem cell. So this peptide attract the stem cell, capture the stem cell, and from fresh, when flow goes through it, become like a endothelial cell, which that cover inside the blood vessel. So here, that's the tube I made. And this is put in the animal model. You see like a plastic tube with peptide. And then you could see if you take it on the right-hand side, it's inside it is like an old biological. So you wouldn't recognize if it's normal blood vessel or synthetic. So to make tube, we make the polymer, it's a nanocomposite polymer. You pour it into this machine and make 1 meter tube. Then you have to do preclinical tests. You put in the animal model. Usually it's about 6 months to see if it works or not. Then you start clinical trial. That's right. Previously, we tried in the patient with different, slightly different polymer, and in the leg, we do bypass, and some of them did very well, some of them not. What was ideal for patient going on the dialysis, the graft was marked as a dialysis. So if people have dialysis, they put the graft called vascular access, then you put the needle through it. I'm going through a bit faster now. We make heart valve. It is a collaboration with Dr. Bruce here. Currently moved to Italy, he's working there. He's one of the very bright mechanical engineer, which is expertise in heart valve. And he made this scaffold made from nitinol. So nitinol scaffold he made, so you could virtually put the leaflet in it. So he made this nitinol and you could squash it down. As soon as you let it become open like this. And I made the valve for it. And that's the valve. And then deliver, you squash it down to 6 millimeters. So you could go in from the artery without opening the chest. Here, the valve leaflet on the top is our valve leaflet. On the bottom is a commercially biological valve. Our valve leaflet is a dynamic system because it works much better. And it looks like this, that's the leaflet. You can squash it down to 6 millimeters in the plastic tube, and it's called catheter, and you push it into the body and replace the artery, replace the valve. This is the X-ray in the animal model, in the sheep model. You could see here, it's supposed to be video, which doesn't play. And here, actually, you cannot see the leaflet. Here, actually, in the heart of the ship, and it's pumping there. And again, this whole video, it one there, and we did it in Paris. This is a preclinical trial, and now waiting to go possibly to clinical trial. So nanotechnology and stem cell, these are there's lots of biotechnology, stem cell, nano, and there are lots of ways. Even nanotechnology currently is being used for COVID vaccine delivery. So there are all options. People start working onto it, and they are getting to it, but it's very slow going to patient. People eager to have this treatment, but gradually moving there. Personally, I didn't go through all of them. Number of commercialized products, and they have been commercialized and under use. I would like to now acknowledge my 121 PhD students, which they all graduate and got job, whatever. Then they're clinical fellow, research fellow, and also when I was on UCL academic and stuff. And now my company is Hannah Salusia. She's a financial lady, co-director of my company. And these are my details. Happy to help anyone. Any question, any request, any whatever, just contact me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alex, for a very interesting presentation. I know we have some youngsters who've joined from the United States as well, and as well as youngsters from the UK and elsewhere as well, from around the world, because we are live streaming on Facebook. And as I mentioned in my introduction, if you have questions, you can please type them. If you're joining us on Zoom, if you can type in the chat box. Those who are joining us on Facebook, please do use the comment box there to ask your questions. So Alex, there's some questions here from someone has said, if translation of research from animals to humans is not very successful, why test on animals?
Well, yes, why test the animal? But we don't have any other way to test it. Okay, it's not as good, but it's better than nothing. I mean, it really have to be tested on larger animal. If you develop in certain special medical devices, you have to be much larger than, but larger animal, more difficult to get permission and also costly to keep and to treat them. Hence, people tested on a smaller animal. It's to do with costing and regulation. That's what I was trying to say. It's not like it bad. It's not like it doesn't help at all. But generally, you test on rodent. It's easier to test and simpler. Then you test on larger animal, and and then at least you've done something before to go clinically.
There's another question. Are there other single layer materials as good as graphene?
Other single materials are good. Well, I have to say no. I mean, as far as I know, graphene is the most exciting material currently because it's just extremely strong, flexible, light, everything you mentioned, it got it. I mean, there may come another material, I don't know, few years time or whenever, replace it. But currently, well recognized, graphene is the key material, the leading material. And every government, virtually every government spends so much money on graphene, manufacturing graphene. Now they're desperately looking for application of graphene. So they want to use this graphene. People make a lot of graphene and try to sell it, but graphene itself, you sell it, doesn't. So people are looking for application of graphene. For example, in medicine, you could make a sensor, sensing in a pH or something with graphene material very easily. In car industry, I mean, if you make your car's tire from graphene, you never have to change it. You know, the advantage.
Okay, Alex, we have someone, Dr. Anila from Pakistan. She's just typed a question here on Facebook. She said that what is the greatest challenge while making nanocomposite graphene material to be used as artificial nose skin?
Artificial skin?
Nose, for the nose.
No, okay. Well, for the nose, virtually, skin is very difficult to make, and nobody have ever tried to repair a skin. You know, if the skin like burn, there are a lot of things, you know, you can put on the skin and repair it, but you cannot grow skin. So hence, the challenge is when you make a synthetic material and you make a shape of this nose which patient needed, and you put some stem cell onto it, and then you could implant it under skin in the arm or on the back, wherever. And the challenge is the skin integrate in that scaffold. It has to integrate and supply blood. And then the plastic surgeon can cut it and put it on the nose and suture all those little blood vessels to the face blood vessel and to survive. So the nanocomposites you make have to be non-toxic, biocompatible, and also integrate to surrounding tissue.
Okay, thank you. I hope, Anila, you've got your answer. We have another question on Facebook. Dr. Imran Patel, who is from the Leicester University in UK. How long do you think before we will see man-made heart commercially available?
Okay, heart actually, funny enough, heart is not very difficult to make. I mean, liver, impossible. Brain, impossible. But heart is not difficult because virtually is a pump. It's a pump, you know, pumping. And people have made heart, but not permanent. I mean, people have a heart, you could put a heart and unfortunately the pump to go with it, you know, the pump have to be like a big box, you have to carry it around. And they can survive without the heart, with just artificial heart, 3 to 6 months until to replace a heart. To have a heart implant there forever, you know, for this, still difficult. It is difficult to get a material to virtually to contract. Virtually, you need a muscle to make the muscle contract. You need a synthetic material to contract continuously every second, you know, 24 hours, you know, just do that is not easy. So you virtually need to make sort of like a bionic material to replace a muscle with maybe cell integrate onto it. But again, you know, it's not impossible. And I would say realistically, in 20 years' time, there would be one.
Thank you. Alex, we have another question on Zoom. Professor Ahmed, who said, what are the challenges, because I know you sort of mentioned from doing your research at UCL and moving to company, what are the challenges of moving research from academia to industry?
My God, a lot. I thought it's easy. You do all this thing, you go to industry, you keep making all what you did in university, sell it, you know, on Amazon. But it's not easy. When actually, as an academic, you go, I mean, industry, now I've got lots of respect for them. It's really hard work. Academic, you go to, you do some research, and the aim is to get published and to get another grant. You know, as long as you get published, you know, somewhere and you get another grant, is done, your job done. But in the industry, the research you do, if you're not sure, you're going to make money onto it, you cannot do it even, because every penny you spend, you have to get it from someone. Your time is money. You know, people invested money in your company. They're asking for, you know, payback time, you know. So it's a lot of challenge. And when you do something, it have to work, you know. And also you have, your mind is something there. You have to decide, does this work? That's one thing. Then it worked, not just it worked, you know. Then compare with other products in the market. Is it compatible, you know, comparative? It doesn't make money. People will buy it. I mean, you may have the best product, but still not be able to commercialize it. You know, maybe people say, yes, we don't need that, you know. So it's actually, anything really, I mean, to making things, it works. Maybe it's about 20% of the company, 80%, you know, advertising, raising money, all kind of stuff, you know, contact, clinical. I mean, if you're talking about clinical devices, preclinical trial, clinical trial, all the stage, documentation, I mean, to 20% is go to the science and development, 80% to whole other things. So lots of challenge and lots of learning.
Thank you. There's a question here that somebody says, why don't we test on people that are terminally ill?
Well, you know, after World War II, then after World War II, a lot of products we have, and because during the wartime, they just did anything. They just tested, they put it into body and stuff. And that we have a lot of product is we use, especially maybe even chemotherapy, this, that is product of that. And during the COVID, you know, they're testing a lot of vaccine. You know, they just say, oh, let's see this work, let's see that. Or even treatment they're testing. Without COVID would not be allowed. They're excellent. The main thing, the regulatory body, especially in Western country and US and stuff, they would not allow it. So people go to test a product, American, they go to test in Mexico, European, they go to somewhere else to test it. So they would not allow to test it. Even it doesn't, if it does work or doesn't work, whatever, they, you know, even terminally do not allow to use it. This ethically, they would not allow it.
Okay, we'll take a question from Facebook. Mohammed Yunus, I'm not sure where he's from, but he said that nowadays there's a lot of human organ trafficking that's going on. He said, what's your take on that with your approach? Shall it stop or it will still continue?
Say it again.
You know, there's a lot of human organ trafficking going on.
Organ human trafficking. No, that will go on at least next 50 years, you know, because the organ which they're trafficking, kidney a lot, you know, mainly kidney really, but maybe heart and thing. And I don't think so we will able, I mean, there's stuff I'm trying to make very simple, like a nose, like an ear, like a blood vessel is a chew, but solid organ like liver, kidney, and even heart, they are much more complex, and they will not, I mean, maybe liver and kidney and stuff, I don't think so they be developed and commercialized next 50 years, even if it does. So sorry to say this, this still will go on, and maybe even more, because now people could buy even kidney on the internet and stuff, and all kind of stuff, unfortunately.
Okay, we'll take a bit of a lighter question from a youngster who is in high school, I believe, Rida, who said, joining us on Zoom. What advice would you give to young people who want to get into nanotechnology research and nanomedicine?
Okay. My advice is really, if you want to get to nanotechnology research, well, first you need from your school, you need to go to university. So at the university level, best, I mean, if you do physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, doesn't matter, science degree, they all lead you there. Nanotechnology, it is a multidisciplinary, you know, because if you're a chemist, you could be involved in nanotechnology. If you're a physicist, definitely could be involved in nanotechnology. You engineer, you could be involved in nanotechnology working. Even your biologists, you look at the toxicology, effect on nanotechnology, lots of things. Pharmaceutical company, they work on nanotechnology for drugs delivery. So it doesn't matter how long as you got a science degree, you could be involved in nanotechnology.
Okay, so in addition to the technical knowledge of the subject, what other skills are important for a successful career in this field? For example, like presentation skills, public speaking. What would you say?
Well, in any job, I mean, if you have an academic job, if you work in university, so you definitely need publication, presentation. So those skills, they're one of the good skills if you're a good writer. If you could write well, in terms of analyze things and write well, in a good writer is you have a strong command of English and a strong command of science, you do extremely well. Writing could be writing a publication or writing a report or writing somebody for a grant or get money. If you're a good writer, same time, if you're a good speaker, you got this challenge, you speak well, people listen to you, attract to you, then again, that helps a lot, So yeah, writing, speaking, at same time, I mean, advantage these days, you go on Google, type in anything, you get so much knowledge, internet knowledge. So you have to build up your knowledge. Not just on that, just surrounding a whole lot, because say nanotechnology is applied everywhere, from aerospace to medicine to car industry to anywhere, textile, clothes, everything you mentioned, nanotechnology is there. So you have to improve your general knowledge as well.
What are the important lessons that you have learned during your journey that you would like to, impart to the youngsters?
What I learned, you just, while you're special, you're young, you're in university from say 20 to 30, do whatever you like, take risk. You need to take risk, that kind of thing, take risk. Don't say, okay, you do certain degree, you're just trying to follow it, Yes, suddenly you get a scholarship. Suddenly you can go 6 months, another country, go to work in that department. When I finished my degree, I was working in CERN, because I did physics, nuclear application. Then I came to London. I was working on finance, trying to predict price of the share. Then, started doing medicine, then I dropped medicine. I did MSc in chemistry and stuff. Then I did PhD. I went a year in Harvard. I went a year in Johns Hopkins. I went 9 months in Japan. So, and I was working on lots of different projects, from really, like a surgical project to very much physical project, nuclear, isotope, and that kind of thing. I was working in Manchester looking at the TMJ dysfunction. There's a joint in the face called TMJ dysfunction, and working nuclear. So yes, you could just, more you go to work in different area, you build your expertise, you learn a lot. And even you go there, you make mistake, you say, oh, I wish I wasn't, it doesn't matter. Then late 20, then you need to settle down a job, and you keep that job the rest of your life, or at least to improve on that. But beforehand, more expertise you get, it builds up your personality and also your skill.
Another question, someone just sent me a message here. Do you think that it will be possible to have a brain transplant, or is that science fiction?
Science fiction. There was a professor in the United States, can't remember his name now. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but he did the brain transplant, and he took a brain from one monkey and transplanted to another monkey, and vice versa. So he used to do that. And his data, he never published it, because he used to attach the blood vessel and some big nerve. And so he was saying he was working on a brain transplant. And a few years ago, there was this guy, Italian surgeon or something, he wanted to do brain transplant on the one patient. If you go on Google, it comes all the time, and everybody is saying, no, it doesn't work. So he hasn't done it. Problem with brain is very sensitive to the oxygen. When you remove it from someone else to put it in somebody else, it gets damaged, Plus there's a nerve, there's millions of nerves to go across it. You cannot join them. So there's a lot of problem. There's a lot of biological problem as well, which is not easy.
Yeah, there's a question from Facebook, someone from Kashmir, who says, because of this COVID-19, how can we manage things in COVID, to do research, to work, manual or robots, or how? What would this?
No, I think, I don't know. I mean, my place, I work in is in the university, part of London University, in lots of company there. We just went on as daily, we careful, we just like if you went general place, we had mask, but we work on it. It just virtually didn't change much. Of course, if you work in the hospital with patient, you have to wear mask or something. But in the research, usually not as many people. Research center, usually researcher not packed with people. I think it just went as normal. We didn't have a problem, or people didn't have a problem.
Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Do we have any other questions, people who are on this Zoom meeting? Anyone want any final question or? No? I think we have reached our time as well. So maybe we should sort of wrap up. And as I said that we will be uploading this webinar on our YouTube channel as well. Thank you very much, Professor Alexander Seifalian, for a very enlightening, very interesting lecture. And I'm sure a lot of the youngsters that have been listening in and watching, even on social media, will find it very, very beneficial. And those of you who still have some questions, maybe you can type in and send to us. I will leave our email address in the chat box and also on Facebook. So if there's any question later on, I could forward on to Professor Seifalian and he can answer. So once again, Professor Seifalian, thank you very much for giving us your time. We know you're extremely busy. And now in COVID, obviously, this is a new way of working. And because we're able to sort of get together on a Sunday evening from people around the world, and it's quite sort of effective. So thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. I'm sure you've all learned a lot, and there's a lot more that if you want to know, obviously you can get in contact with Professor Seifalian, or you could just Google him and you'll see a lot of videos about him on YouTube and a lot of literature. So thank you very much, and I hope you all keep safe. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Good night.